Hey everyone, Dino here. So I'm currently editing the episode, and unfortunately, we had a little issue with our recording software. Tristan made a soundboard with various different sounds from the Planet of the Apes films that we played throughout the episode. Unfortunately, our software didn't record those, so you'll hear us just laugh and react to silence. So just so you know, we're not insane. Those just didn't record, as a little disclaimer up front. But yeah, anyways, I hope you enjoy the episode.
All right, folks, welcome to an episode, a very special episode of Planet of the Apes, or a special episode of literally me on the Planet of the Apes. I am Tristan. As always, I'm joined by my pal Dino. You ready to get ape-like today?
I'm ready. Honestly, you probably gave someone a heart attack with that sound.
Yeah, I
But
know. It was pretty jarring. And it wasn't even an ape, it was a monkey too. So we're already off to a
yeah,
bad start. The people listening who heard that probably were thinking,
we have sound effects now for this
"We got
special
a
chaotic
soundboard, folks."
ape episode. So get your banana ready. I'm not talking about the fruit, and enjoy
Hmm.
this episode. It's gonna be a great one.
Hell yeah! So, if you guys have been listening, you know we have teased this episode in the past on a couple episodes, and you might know that Dino and I are big, big, big Planet of the Apes fans. And we just wanted to have an opportunity to go through kind of the history of the Planet of the Apes. Now that we have this new film that just hit theaters that you saw yesterday and I
Yep.
saw 2 days ago.
Mhm.
And I mean, what better opportunity than to, do it now on the pod for everyone else?
Absolutely, and I've been dying to talk about these films because a lot of them I watched only recently for the first time.
That's
So it
right.
was a very new experience for me, but immediately like some of my favorite films, honestly. Like this franchise is just one that keeps on giving bangers.
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, we're gonna go through a little bit of the historical timeline of Planet of the Apes. Um, we all know it as a huge deal now. I think in part to the Matt Reeves trilogy, but it really all goes back to the OG, which I find a lot of people like around our age have never seen. Like they've only seen the new ones, so that's why I say that. Um, but the original Planet of the Apes, 1968, starring Charlton Heston, directed by Franklin J. Schaffner, and just you've seen this one prior, correct? You have seen the original one prior to this rewatch, or this was the first time?
This was my first time, so I had only seen like the Matt Reeves ones. I had
Okay,
never seen the original one, so this was my first time watching them.
okay. This came out in '68, beginning of the new Hollywood sort of era. It's kind of an early sort of franchise thing. You think of like Star Wars and all that coming later on in like the mid to late '70s, but Planet of the Apes being like a sci-fi saga kind of franchise predates it by like 9 years. And there weren't many other franchises like that really booming that early. But 1968, this comes out. It is a fucking phenomenon, blows people out of the water, especially with that twist ending, which we'll get to later. Although I'm sure even if you've never seen the movie, you know the twist. It's one of those.
Yep.
Um, and it just absolutely took the world by storm, rightfully so. Um, and obviously, off the back of that, they said, well, that made a shit ton of money. So we got to find ways to make some more money. enter 1970 Beneath the Planet of the Apes, which was the first direct sequel to Planet of the Apes. Um, I think one of the more out of pocket ones. I don't know. What do you think about Beneath the Planet of the Apes
Absolutely
in the way that
crazy.
it's as a follow up to the original?
I actually think the ending, which we'll discuss in more detail later, is like more insane than the first one. I mean, the first one is very iconic, and even if you're like someone like me who's been living under a rock and didn't know the twist to what was it, The Sixth Sense,
Sixth
you
Sense,
know
yeah,
the first one, but like the second one, I didn't know, and I think it was so insane to end your film like that. Like that took
yeah,
some real balls, and I think that's why I love it. Just out of pocket, like they went even crazier. So I respect the hell out of them. It's just
yeah.
incredible.
It's interesting to see because with the first Planet of the Apes, it really is this big Hollywood sort of production, right? And it has Charlton Heston in it at like at a huge, not I wouldn't say the prime, but a great point in his career still. Um, and it was a spectacle, made a ton of money, and it was made kind of by studios. But these next ones, they feel very exploitation-y. They feel very run and gun, independent, lower budgeted exploitation kind of movies from the 70s. And Beneath the Planet of the Apes really kind of introduces an interesting sort of angle that Planet of the Apes will take. Because then in 1971, the third Planet of the Apes, Escape from the Planet of the Apes, directed by Don Taylor, came out. And this is funny because on this last rewatch of it, it actually shocked me how different it was from what I remembered. Because again, to lean even more into this going in its own world and not following any set rules, it becomes kind of just like a comedy with these two apes that are hanging around a bunch of humans. It's not really a Planet of the Apes situation. It almost feels like its own thing. Do you agree with that?
I love that like this franchise just took those risks and went into a completely different direction each time. And it was a lot of fun when watching them because I could never tell like what could happen with the next one. And like you
Yeah.
said, this one is way more comedic. They introduced time travel in this one as well, which is just wild and such a big part of this franchise.
Hmm.
Um, just incredible. And I don't know, man. This I don't want to talk about it too much because I want to talk about it later when I get into
Of
like
course.
my personal opinion because this film just is absolutely incredible. It's super funny. It's wild, and that mama.
We'll get into it later, but you already know.
As soon as that happened, I just
Yeah.
lost it.
Yeah, it's a great film, and they were really churning these fuckers out because then the following year, 1972, J. Lee Thompson, incredible filmmaker, then directed the fourth film, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, which the whole storyline of Cornelius is now done because it's actually incredibly sad. The end of Escape from the Planet of the Apes, not to get into it, is kind of sad. But then we get rise to a figure that people now are more familiar with, and that's Caesar. Caesar, aka Milo, is first introduced in 1972 in Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, um, and he is now the figure that is leading the franchise in a way. Again, very exploitation-y. We'll get into it a little bit more later. Um, but then it then takes us into the fifth and final of the original, which came out in 1973, also by J. Lee Thompson, Battle for the Planet of the Apes. Um, Another very exploitation-y, maybe the one of the most of it. Actually, that's probably not true, but that probably belongs to Beneath.
Yeah,
But Battle for the Planet of the Apes came out and put a cap on it. And I do think the kind of general public sentiment was people were kind of losing interest with each one. So it seemed about right that it would end here at the time. And it did for about 28 years. And that was when Tim Burton and Mark Wahlberg joined forces for an unbelievable triumph of cinema Planet of the Apes 2001, a standalone film, which I didn't do any research into it, but I would have to assume, let me know if you agree, I would have to assume that they were planning to build this into a big franchise.
I think they definitely were. I don't know if Tim Burton was so on board with that idea, and it
Yeah,
felt a little bit like a studio hire
for
type
sure.
of thing. But yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of this one. I appreciate like some of the choices they made. But I definitely think like they were expecting it to be more. And I don't know how successful it was at that time, how much money it made, why the plans ultimately fell through, or what happened behind the scenes. Do we know anything? Do you know anything about that?
About why it didn't continue.
Yeah, if it, was
Um,
it like a creative
I'm
differences, money thing?
I'm pulling up because from what I remember, it made a lot of money. But let me pull up. Yeah, it made 362 $1 million off $100 million budget.
Yeah,
Uh, Fox
successful.
just chose to cancel the sequel, and then just decided to reboot it 10 years later as
Hmm.
a new thing.
Yeah.
Which it kind of is crazy to look and be like, wow, that only came out within 10 years of this now what we call the Matt Reeves trilogy.
Hmm.
Um, but the first film in that was directed by who directed that? Rupert Wyatt in 2011, who
Deserves
directed the
deserves
Gambler
credit for
remake.
this one.
He
Yeah.
does. He
You
does.
gotta put some respect on that guy's name.
Yeah, it unfairly is only labeled as the Matt Reeves trilogy. But this guy really did set up a perfect playing field for Matt Reeves to play with the different ideas that would make his two films so incredible. And yeah, like I said, Fox rebooted it in 2011 with Rise of the Planet of the Apes, the first ever use of CGI for the apes ever. Up to this point, it had always been prosthetics, it had always been makeup. That's probably the strongest aspect of Tim Burton's film, by the way,
Yeah.
um, is the makeup and costuming.
Yeah.
But this
That
is the
looked
first time we
incredible.
used CGI. Yeah, this is the first time we used CGI, and it introduced a new Caesar into the mix. Um, and after that, Rupert Wyatt was not brought back on. That I think was creative differences with himself in the studio. He was fired, and they brought on old Matt Reeves for Dawn of the Planet of the Apes 2014. Um, I'm going to avoid saying anything right now because then I just won't stop. Just an incredible, fantastic film.
We'll get into it in a
And
second.
we'll get into it. And then in 2017, followed it up with War for the Planet of the Apes, which we ostensibly all thought was ending the new franchise. At least that's what I thought. Is that what you
Yeah.
thought?
Yeah, it seemed like this was gonna be the ending, and I don't think they had anything at least officially confirmed that there would be something else afterwards. So people had just assumed like this is gonna be it for at least a
Mm-hmm.
while.
Yeah. And I think in a way they probably thought it was too, the studios and whatnot. Especially considering that now here we are, that all led us up to now 2024's Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Which in a way I think because of the time span in between War and Kingdom, you could almost from the outside look at it as like a new thing that's starting in a way. Like they are related and in the same timeline, but it's almost like this is the Caesar franchise, and now this is going to be like the Noah
Mhm.
franchise, which I found interesting. And I'm excited that we can talk about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes a little bit here. I'm curious to know. You saw it last night; it's fresh. What were your initial thoughts on the
Uh,
movie?
Yeah, so I liked it a lot. It was a lot of fun, and I like that you can still like feel Caesar's presence. That's sort of like a really cool thing. So it's it's like new enough so people who don't know anything about the previous three films can just jump right in and they'll
Hmm.
like get what's happening. It's not as I mean for war example, people can do it as could do it as well, but it's definitely like it benefits from knowing those things. And with
Yeah.
this one, sure, you know the details, but you can just jump right in. I liked that about it. But just feeling the presence of what he accomplished and how the different fractions, or like his fraction, I guess, his descendants use his words. And I liked it
Yeah.
a lot. I kind of didn't expect it because these films, like the previous ones, always had like the biggest twists at the end. They were like the masters of like the ending, would
Hmm.
just leave you speechless and you just want to watch the next one. This didn't have like a crazy ending where sort of that twist when they attack his clan and they yell like for Caesar, which was
Hmm.
insane because you didn't expect it. You thought like his clan was
Yeah.
Caesar's descendants. Sort of part of me wishes that that would have been like the ending. Sort of you
Yeah.
follow this character and you have like this villain clan that is just like laying waste upon all these other clans, just murdering, going around. And then in the end, you find out like, oh, they're actually the ones who descend from Caesar. I think that would have been like a really cool way to end it, to sort of have
Yeah.
this perspective. But still, like, I like the direction this one went in, and I'm very excited about the future and how they take it with like this new character, both Noah and May, that they introduced,
Hmm.
and how they're setting them up to they're gonna clash in the next one. And she's gonna build up the human fraction, he's gonna build up and make stronger his clan, and there's gonna be some beef there.
100%. And I thought this new one was interesting too because there is like a biblical kind of parallel, and we're coming off like Dune, which is like the ultimate biblical allegory of
Mhm.
people of like it's interesting. These could kind of be paired together because you could almost look at like Caesar being like God, and then this new Proximus Caesar stepping in as Jesus, who is
Mhm.
now saying, "Hey, this is what it is. I know you guys learned all this other stuff from this other guy. I'm actually that guy." Okay, and is sending out all these people to do all these things in the name of Caesar. You know,
Yep.
it made it really interesting, and I'm glad they took that angle to it because that is something that they hadn't ever really explored. And not that that's an insanely, oh my God, no one has ever made a biblical allegory before. But in terms of our relationship to Caesar, someone that we have had this connection with, and now to step in and see this new motherfucker be like, oh, no, 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 I am him, and I actually know the rules of Caesar. I'm Proximus Caesar. It's, you know what I mean? It's,
Mhm.
I found that really, really interesting. What did you think about I guess both Noah and then Proximus Caesar. Like, what did you think about Noah being the new protagonist? Do you think he's like a good fit? He was a good follow up to Caesar. And what do you think about this? I mean, also kind of the first time that the villain. Well, no, I mean Dawn. I guess Koba is the villain, but
Yeah.
War was more of a human versus ape thing. I guess compare Proximus Caesar to Koba. I guess maybe it would be
Yeah.
the best
Even with
comparison.
battle, they also had like at
Battle
first
as well.
I think it was also Koba, who
Yeah,
hurt his son, and then the humans come in later, and there's like a big war. But
yeah,
there's also like monkey conflict there, like ape conflict, I should say. Um,
yeah,
yeah, I like Noah a lot. I think what I like about him is like his innocence in the beginning. He's very innocent, and then later, where he realizes like he has to step up, and he trusts May, not in the beginning, but after
hmm
what was his name, Raka, I think his name was.
Rock Guy or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah, who was great. Like I liked his character a lot, and I could see him returning. I don't think he's dead. To be completely honest, I think he could return in the sequel. But I like
hmm
that he like taught him about like show some mercy, like trust these humans, trust this human, and you can tell like he in the end he trusted her, but she did not trust him. She had that gun ready in case something, in case he attacks her. So I think there'll be definitely like very cool conflict, and I liked Proximus. I think he was a great villain, and it's cool for us to see because we followed Caesar. And I saw like a lot of people when reviewing it, they were like, "This guy needs to shut up. He hasn't been on the journey that we've been. He doesn't know
yeah,
Caesar like we do." And I like that people are so passionate about it because we
yeah,
know Caesar accomplished and his morale. And it's just cool to see this guy twisting his words, which is like you said, great allegory for like religion and religious figures, and also with Dune, man, Caesar Al Gaib.
Yeah,
I mean,
straight up.
yeah,
Straight up. I have a very
yeah.
random tidbit as well.
Mhm.
I was just like looking something up about Battle for the Planet of the Apes because I was curious. I was like, what was like the bad gorilla's name? I forgot. It's Aldo.
Oh,
And
okay.
I noticed in the credits, John Landis is in the credits of Battle for the Planet of the Apes, and he actually plays one of the like enslaved humans that they capture in Battle for the Planet of the Apes.
I did not recognize him.
He was credited as Jake's friend.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Anyway,
one of like the humans that Aldo then captures and
was
put in
like
the
capturing and yeah.
yeah. Interesting.
Which it's fun. Did you notice some of the parallels in this one to? I guess it's in Battle, but also in the original one. Like that scene where they're all by the little pond by the river,
Yep.
and they come in with the. I mean, that's straight out of the original film, and I thought that was such a fun um, little scene.
Absolutely. And there's also the one where like they're on the beach and it also looks very
Yep,
reminiscent
100%.
of that scene.
I
So
thought
they
that's
do
where
a
they
lot
were
of like,
leading to. I thought they were going to
yeah.
lead to like up to the Statue of Liberty or something at that point, honestly.
Yeah. What city were they in? Was it like Los Angeles?
They were well down by the water was like I think it said something like of like Coronado, so that's like San Diego.
Oh, okay, because I thought like the airport, it looked like LAX, or
I
was it
think
not?
I think they were, but when they got to the shore, like all the way down, they traveled to San Diego for sure.
They traveled
But I think
far.
it was LA to
Okay.
San Diego. Yeah,
Okay. That's interesting. I like the visuals of this one a lot. I think it's definitely
it was
like the
incredible.
most, yeah, the most visually appealing film of them all. Just insane. I mean, they're shot on location. It looks beautiful, the lighting. It's definitely like a very gorgeous film. And I like
Yeah,
all the tall buildings with like all the plants and things hanging from it. It looked
I do
amazing.
too. The way
Yeah.
that they were able to kind of design the world to show its change, because I mean, it is multiple generations. I think we're to assume it's like 200 something years,
Yeah.
maybe since Caesar. And it showed like the change in that I feel like in an effective way. And I feel like there probably were a lot of Easter eggs that maybe I didn't even click onto that if I really like looked, I'm like, okay, that was the same location from War or from Rise
Mhm.
or whatever. Or I guess
Yeah.
not Rise, because I don't think they were in San Francisco at any point in this
I
film.
don't think so.
But
I think like
but
definitely
yeah,
on rewatch there will be like more references. I mean, there was one where they're in like that vault and he picks up this little children's toy and he squeezes it and it says mama.
yeah,
So I thought
yes.
that was like a great Easter egg too, that iconic. Yep.
I'm very quick on the trigger with the soundboard, clearly. Um, but yeah, one thing that I do kind of want to go through, I guess, before we kind of get into our rankings and talking about some of the other films more in depth, is the one thing I think is so interesting about Planet of the Apes is the way that the timeline is structured. Um, Particularly in the original franchise, because the way that their timeline works is almost on like a loop.
A
So
time loop.
you can technically watch any of the first original five in any not in any order, like not you couldn't go one, five, four, two, but you could start and go one, two, three, four, five, or you could go two, three, four, five, one, or
Mhm.
three, four, five, one, two, four, five, one, two, three, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
You can start at any of them and then go and then start over, and it works. Um, and that's because the way that it works. And I'll give a quick background for those listening, and then I have a question for you after.
Mhm.
Actually, I'll give it to you now, so that way you can kind of think about it while I
Yeah.
explain it a little longer. If you had a perfect way of watching, which one would you start with? Like, so that way, which one would you feel like this would be cool to start with this one, so that way it would end with this one? So think on
Mhm.
that for a sec, and I'll
Okay.
explain to the folks. The way that the Planet of the Apes original trilogy works is that Charlton Heston, I believe, leaves Earth at like 1972, goes off into space, and he crash lands on a planet that he then finds out is Earth in like the 3,000, like almost 4,000. I think it's 3,978. 3978. I don't even know how to say that because it's so far into the future. I don't even know how I would say that year. Where immediately after the events of the original Planet of the Apes in the same year, Beneath the Planet of the Apes then takes place. And what Beneath the Planet of the Apes does, and by the way, this is a spoiler episode, especially now moving forward. So if you haven't watched any of these, just stop. But Beneath the Planet of the Apes effectively kind of destroys the entire planet in 3978. However, Zira and Cornelius are able to escape in a spaceship with unborn baby Milo, aka Caesar, which is where Escape from the Planet of the Apes begins. But what happens is that they go back in time to 1973, around the time when Charlton Heston would have left in the original. And now is where the timelines start to split a little bit. Because in 20 years after, in 1993, is Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. And that started its own timeline because Cornelius and Zira came in and disrupted the timeline by crash landing in 73 when Charlton Heston left. And then that's what leads to Battle for the Planet of the Apes, which is takes place, when is that? 2003, only 10 years after Conquest. And then there's a little, I think it's bookended by like 600 years in the future or something insane.
Yeah.
So the way that works technically, you could start with Escape and go all the way through and then end with Beneath. You could start with the original and end with Battle. You could even start with Battle and then go back. Actually, that one might be a little tough because there's no escaping or moving through time. But I guess you do have the lawgiver who is telling the story of Planet of the Apes in the beginning and the end. So it does offer itself the ability to go back in time as well. But I'm curious, what if you were to watch those five, unless you're like, it's good, just 1 through 5, is there an alternate order that you would like to view these in or think would be cool to view it in?
This might be like very boring, but I think the way it's set up, I think in chronological order, I think that's the best way to watch it, like the best viewing experience. It would be cool to maybe start with like Battle, and you have Caesar at his like height, and like him already being the leader of
Mm-hmm.
them, and then seeing like how it happens. But I think just a twist of the first one, how crazier they get, I think that's
Yeah,
something that you can't really replicate it if you watch it in a different order,
that's
I
true.
guess.
That
Do
is
you have
true.
like interesting order to watch it?
I
Like
think
starting?
one I think one fun one is like Escape, starting with Escape from Planet of
Hmm.
the Apes. So you see them escaping, you don't quite understand where there's like why they are, so they crash land on Earth, and it's
Hmm.
almost a reverse now. It's like apes on a planet of humans. And
Yeah.
you go through that with Escape, which is a weird one to start with, I know, because it's the least like actiony, battley of all of the Planet of the Apes films that there are.
Hmm.
Um, which it might be why it could be a fun start. But you start with that, go into Conquest, you go into Battle for Planet of the Apes. The lawgiver takes you back and tells you about the original Planet of the Apes, and then it leads you into Beneath with this insane ending where it's like, oh, that's what they were escaping from. I think that could be a fun one, but
Yeah.
yeah, but ultimately, I mean, I do think that that's what's so cool is you really can kind of go and start with any of them, and have something that actually makes sense all the way through.
Do you think they're planning to do like a almost sort of like a remake with this new saga where it's also going to get, because we know that the astronauts are in space. They mentioned them in Dawn. The Dawn, right? Rise. They mentioned them in Rise of the Planet of the Apes. There's like the astronaut, they launched into space, they're up there.
Hmm.
So we know they exist in this new saga. Do you think
Yeah,
like that's what it's leading up to and like a remake of the
one
first
hundred
one?
percent. That's
Okay,
exactly what it's leading up to.
I hope so. And then if they introduce timeline, do you think they'll do like a closed time loop as well, where maybe in the end someone goes back in time and they introduce like this ALZ serum for Alzheimer's? Maybe the apes figure it out in like the future and someone brings it back to the past, like that serum to
Yeah,
make them even smarter or something like that.
if I had to guess, what I think is happening is that, like with Rise in a way is kind of like you could look at the parallel as like Escape from Planet of the Apes, like in
Yeah.
a way. Meets Conquest. Like it's kind of that. They're coming out really probably more Conquest than Escape,
Mhm.
honestly.
Yeah.
And Dawn has a lot of parallels to like Battle for the Planet of the Apes here and there. And War as well. They those kind of together sort
It's
of being
better,
like
yeah.
Battle for the Planet of the Apes.
Mhm.
Um, and I feel like with this new one, they're kind of filling that space in between of what is happening before they crash land. So I feel like, in a way, I don't know that they're going to go in a full, like the same order, but I do feel like, because like I said, I was getting like Beneath vibes a little bit with this like underground group of people who are all just
Yeah.
now getting communication. But to me, it still feels like they're still in their battle for the Planet of the Apes era, where it's this human versus ape clashing. You know what I mean? But I feel like after that, they are going to then have a new, like a reboot of the original.
Mhm.
I don't know how well it's going to work though, because we already know everything that's happening, and it's like, okay, now these people just crash landed on Earth. And the main twist is gone, obviously, because we know we've been on the planet with the apes. But it would be a cool new angle to look at it, at least.
Maybe they even
Um,
get like a new twist in a way. I
maybe
mean,
that'd
they're
be awesome.
planning 5 more of these. I think they said 9 in total of this new
That's
saga.
crazy. That's
But they
awesome,
have
but that's
like
crazy.
plans to do like the producers and writers for 5 more, which I'm excited about. And I don't know how long this Noah and May saga is gonna be. If it's gonna be like maybe 2 more films of them, and then maybe it ends with the astronauts, and we get like 2 more films with that in a way, and it sort of
Hmm.
ends with the destruction again. Um, I would really like to see maybe the apes find like that serum or like the documents of the scientists, and they try to make them even smarter to destroy the humans. Or like
Yeah,
maybe the humans try to make themselves smarter, and then someone gets a hold of that and then brings it back in the past and sort of starts it again. I think that could be like maybe a cool angle, but who knows? We'll
I wouldn't
see.
be surprised if they did like a multiversy kind of thing. I really don't want them to, because I hate when Hollywood gets multiversy because they all suck.
And
Um,
everyone's doing it, so it's
but
just
I feel like they would try to do that. But if I had to guess, I would assume the next one is going to be a big battle for the Planet of the Apes again type vibe.
yeah.
And then after that, I feel like they would introduce the original in a way. And then
Mhm.
I can imagine them doing like a Beneath the Planet of the Apes kind of thing, where there is this like nuclear end. Like but for 5 more, that's crazy. I have no idea what they're gonna do for 5 more films. That's
No,
wild. I'm
but
here for
instead
it, but that's
we
crazy.
could even jump even further and have it like this like different eras of like leaders in this ape and how they slowly built their society. Maybe they have like a Napoleon type of ape. I guess this Proximus is like the closest one to that, but they could have
Yeah.
like different leaders who do different sort of stuff, and then slowly they're getting into like a more structured. Maybe they'll even be like more modern than with the original one, because the original one they still had like those tent-looking buildings that they lived in. They
Yeah.
didn't have cars. Maybe they go like crazy where they have cars, they have like
I would
whatever
love
like
that.
futuristic stuff, and that could bring it into like a very interesting new direction where they're
Hmm.
more advanced.
Mark Wahlberg's gonna go explain evolution to the monkeys. Um, yeah, I agree. I saw on Reddit some people are which I just pulled it up, predicting the titles of Apes 5 and Apes 6 after
Oh,
Kingdom.
okay.
And these are the top. There's six here, but I'll name the top three.
Mhm.
Um, there is Empire of the Planet of the Apes,
I think that's an obvious one.
Age of the Planet of the Apes, Fall of the Planet of the Apes.
Hmm.
That would be badass. And then the other three that are like lower ranked are Evolution of the Planet of the Apes, Schwap, Discovery of the Planet of the Apes, garbage, and Demise of the Planet of the Apes.
That's all right.
Um,
The
yeah, I
last one.
think Fall of the Planet of the Apes goes hard as shit. Like for the
Yeah.
last one, Fall of the Planet of the Apes is hard as fuck,
Hmm. I like that a lot.
absolutely hard. Um, to start with Rise of the Planet of the Apes and then end with Fall, like that's fucking
Mhm.
hard as hell.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true.
some Roman Empire type shit.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, should we get into our rankings of all 10
Before
Planet of
we
the
do
Apes
that,
films?
there's like a couple more things about the new one that I just wanted to quickly mention because there were some fun things, and one of them includes the home release of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which will have a version of the entire movie with the original footage of the actors in the mocap suits, which is a very funny idea, and I'm glad they're like bringing back these fun things for like digital, like home releases, digital. I think it's not. Yeah, it's the home media release, so it's not the digital. So Blu-rays and DVDs and 4K releases, and I'm glad they're doing that just to get
Mm-hmm.
people more of a reason to buy physical media again because it's unfortunately
Oh
dying.
yeah.
And I think it'd be like a very funny version to watch and like as a rewatch, just like the actors in their mocap suits. It would be super goofy, but also like very fun. I haven't
Oh
seen
yeah.
any like that before because they shot a lot of this film, like most of this film, on like practical sets, and
Mm-hmm.
it you can tell it's just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. It's I think that's why the visual look of it was a little bit more striking than maybe in the past, where it was very heavily like blue screen CGI and all that.
Mhm. Especially like with the Rise, they it was still because the last two, the Reeves ones, they were shot. They were the first ones to be shot digitally.
Mm-hmm.
Was this one shot on? This one was as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty crisp. Let me double check, but yeah, it was looking pretty crisp to me at least. Yeah. Yeah, shot on an Ari Alexa.
Yeah, but it looked amazing. I like the way it
Yeah.
looked. And what's also funny is the actors had to go to ape school for 6 weeks in preparation for this film. So that would make it even funnier to see them in mocap suits because they had to learn how to act like apes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a really cool feature. I'm excited to see that when that physical comes out.
Mhm. But I just thought that would be interesting. But yeah, let's get into
Hell
our
yeah.
rankings.
Yeah, let's do it. Here, let me pull up mine. And yeah, we are now at 10 Planet of the Apes films, if you can believe that. And yeah, we're just going to go from 10 to 1. We're each going to go very briefly and kind of explain why that one is there. And you want to kick it off, do you know?
I'll kick it off with my number 10, and that is The Planet of the Apes from 2001 by Tim Burton, starring
Wow.
Mark Wahlberg. I didn't like this one, and this is like the only one that I didn't even give a heart. I mean, I just don't know. Like, I didn't. The makeup was incredible. Like, the costumes, the practical stuff, out of this world. Honestly, it was super amazing, but it just didn't feel like it just didn't have the style and like the swagger of the other films in my opinion. I just didn't
Yeah,
particularly find very funny. I didn't like Mark Wahlberg's character a lot. There were a lot of like great stuff, like that beginning with that monkey, like that chimp,
it's
and
amazing.
like
It's the best opening scene ever.
it's incredible. It's honestly really funny, and even the opening title where we have like the statue with like the blood coming, which was also like a callback to Beneath. I
Battle.
think it was in the end. The battle, I think he has a tear in
The
the end.
teardrop. Yeah. Oh, he's crying.
Beneath
Yeah.
he has like the
Oh, yeah. And
blood
beneath
coming,
its blood. You're right. You're right.
which is one of the craziest visuals, and the fact that it's in like a Planet of the Apes films is just incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one I think it was just I just didn't like it that much, honestly. So it's my least favorite one. I know you liked it a little bit more,
Yes.
so
And I'll get into it in my
yeah,
rankings.
it's not your last one.
It's not. No, my number 10 is Battle for the Planet of the Apes. And for me, I think the thing is that I literally love and like every single Planet of the Apes movie. So it's really more so of like this is just the order of which I like them. I like Battle for the Planet, but every time I always feel like I'm just a little less somewhat interested at this point. In the original, like it does for me at the end of Conquest, like I feel like that is just such a great conclusion in a way that battle almost feels like an epilogue of sorts, which is still cool and still interesting, but it doesn't quite have the pull for me that maybe some of the others do, even though it's hilarious because this is the one that maybe gets riffed on the most in all of these new reboots, is Battle.
Yeah.
Still an awesome movie, but by all means. But I think again, it feels more of like an epilogue sort of thing when I think of all the others feel like actual proper films that stand, with authority in place. Where I'm like, Battle is just like, oh, that's a fun little extra little side plot you guys just threw at the end. But shout out John Landis and John Huston as the lawgiver. Great casting there. So, what's your number
Yeah.
9?
My number 9, and I think because the rest of these, like just number 10, I didn't like that much. The rest of these I love a lot. And these next two are sort of interchangeable. And now that you talked about Battle, I could have switched it up, but for me, like my initial one was Conquest for number 9. I still like this a
Mm-hmm.
lot. I think it's
Yeah.
great. And I also like the ending is just insane. It reminded me a lot because I watched it, I think like 2 weeks after Dune 2. And it was
Mm-hmm.
very funny, like just to see. I think this film was definitely inspired by the Dune book. Honestly, I cannot see how it wasn't. Just how they like praise the Messiah and when he gets up and just riles up all the apes and just has this incredible monologue um,
Yeah.
about how he's gonna rule and how he's their Messiah, which was very cool. And I really liked this. I think it was very great, and also having them talk about like that virus that killed off all the other pets, and so humans started like having apes as pets and doing tasks for them, and him freeing them, liberating them, like Paul Atreides liberated the Fremen. So it was great, and I love this one. So don't let the ranking fool you on number 9. It was still amazing. Just the other ones are just a little bit better for me. But this
Mm-hmm.
was still a very very strong entry. So yeah, that's my number 9.
Yeah. My number 9 is going to be the second film in the original franchise, and that's Beneath the Planet of the Apes. Um, a movie that is so bonkers and bizarre, and just so strange that I really have to admire the fucking shit out of it because it dares to be completely different in the face of a monumental achievement in Hollywood. And honestly, now that I think about it, I probably actually should rank this just a tad bit higher. Now that I'm kind of saying it out loud. Um, but for me, it does in a way also just feel when I watch it as like there is money grabness to it. It feels like they're like, okay, what crazy shit can we just come up with at the end? And then they essentially blow it up. I don't think they really, in a way, I feel like they wanted to also give it the option, like the opportunity to also end there if they wanted to. Whereas the others are like very strong in it, like, no, this is continuing on. We have this and this and this. Beneath there is almost sort of a finality to it, which I also do like. Um, Again, to tell you the truth, I actually think I would swap this in my next one now that I'm actually thinking about it more. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Beneath the Planet of the Apes at number 9. Let's go ahead and just call that 8, though. I think I'm gonna swap 8 and 9 actually.
Yeah. Same for me, honestly, with the next one, like I already said, and that would be Battle. And we talked about. I like this one, and you tell with the original ones, each film just felt like they had a lesser budget in a way. Like
Mm-hmm.
with each film, you felt a little bit that the budget was less, which they also made it into interesting directions because they didn't have that initial budget. But with this one again, like they went crazy in the end. You can tell like they saved in the beginning, because
Oh
there
yeah,
wasn't really a lot of going on. But then in the end, when they had like the humans come in and just this massive fight, and I loved when what was his name again? The other ape that Caesar fights. You said it before.
Aldo.
Aldo. I really liked when he hurts Caesar's son when he like kicks him off from the tree.
Yeah,
Like just the way when Caesar finds that out, and he's like, in the end, he's like battling him. He's like, "Oh, you can't kill me because ape can't kill ape," and he just
yeah.
kills him anyway. He's like, "I don't care. You hurt my son." I just like this one, and it's wild, and I liked it, and I get what you mean with like it sort of felt sort of as an epilogue in a way,
Yeah,
but still I thought it was very crazy and
and
fun and
that's from directly taken in Dawn as well. That moment, the when
with
Koba
Koba.
ape no kill ape, and then
Yep,
Caesar's like Koba no ape, and lets
yep,
him go.
and lets him
It's
go, which
fucking
is just
amazing,
it's such
fucking
a great
incredible. My God.
yeah. But yeah, I
Um,
like this one as well. So this is my number eight, probably nine. They're sort of like interchangeable.
sure.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So my number 8 actually is my number 9. I even flipped it in my letterboxd list. And
Okay.
that is the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes. Um, I hadn't seen it in so long, and I remembered it being really ass. But when I watched it again like 2 months ago, I'm not gonna lie to you, I thoroughly enjoyed the shit out of the entire thing, the whole 2 hours. I was in it, loved everything about it. I love that it didn't take itself very seriously, that it was afraid to take or wasn't afraid to take chances at things that were completely out of pocket and cartoonish. And I mean, the makeups and prosthetics and all that are amazing, and it was laugh out loud funny for me. I was laughing my ass off the entire time. It was just it's a fun entry in the overall Planet of the Apes, canon. I think it's a fun entry to have there. Is it a great monumental piece of cinema? Auteur cinema? Hell, fucking no. I mean, Tim Burton is barely even phoning it in, but
Yeah.
it's entertaining as shit. It made me laugh. Anytime Planet of the Apes is on my screen, I love it. So I'm gonna throw that at 9 because I actually, like I said, I do think Beneath the Planet of the Apes is deserving of being over it, because of the chances Beneath takes. Um, and it is just a better movie, I think. Actually, I was kind of just tripping, but yeah. Anyway, that's my number 9, but saying in place of 8.
Okay. So it leads me to my number seven, which is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. The first
Are
Matt
you
Reeves
fucking?
one.
Are you shitting me?
I'm not. I'm not. And I expected you to react to this one because I know how much you love this. And it's incredible. It's amazing. That was really it's incredible. Like I love this film. Just I love these other ones. It's had more. Also the other Matt Reeves one, I think he went crazier with the next one. It's great. I love the human and ape conflict. I love how it's set up, how it's they're allowing them to go there to help them restore their energy and like this conflict. You can understand both sides, and I think that makes for like a great watch because you don't have a clear villain because the humans are trying to survive. They're trying to have energy, and the apes are also trying to survive and are scared that if those humans have the energy that they're gonna come there and shoot them up. And so this is like just a written conflict that is very, very like on both sides understandable. It's a great film, great CGI. It looks great. Great conflict, great final battle on that building that is sort of in the end when it explodes, falling apart, and the stuff with Koba, where Caesar is presumably dead and has to go back to the house where he grew up in, and sort of all these things. And the human characters are also great. But yeah, I just like the other ones a bit more. But still, this one is fantastic. Don't let the ranking fool you. Don't let the place fool you. So yeah, you can roast me now. I'm
Yeah,
ready.
no, I'm not going to roast. I honestly will say I've never disagreed with you more. I think in my life, though, I think honestly up until now, that is crazy. Especially because I think of my number 7. My number 7 is the new Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes,
Okay.
um, which was a really fun entry. I really love the characters, and it was a ton of fun watching it. I mean, we kind of already just went into it in great detail, so there's not much that I
Yeah.
can say apart from. I think the reason I ranked here is because it was nice, but I really don't feel that while it was super cool and while anytime I see apes, I'll go crazy. I don't know that it really did anything to move the franchise forward really in any way. I mean, I guess the ending, there is now this introduction of these humans who have now made contact, and now there's that. But I honestly found the whole Proximus Caesar thing a little underwhelming, and I actually found him to be very underutilized. They did not use him enough. Um, so with that regard, it did kind of shift my perception of it a bit. But It looked beautiful. The action was great. I love this character of Noah. I thought it was a solid movie, and actually, again, now that I'm thinking about it more, you're gonna think I'm insane. I flip it again. Beneath the Planet of the Apes, number 7. Kingdom, number 8. I switch it
Okay.
again. Live on the spot.
Okay.
Live on the
Beneath is
spot.
slowly creeping up.
Yeah. Beneath
Beneath
is slowly creeping up. I decided, yeah, Beneath is number 7. Kingdom is number 8.
cannot wait for you to flip it to number 1 at the end of
And
our
that's
ranking.
what's gonna happen. It's crazy because before
Yeah.
I started before I even started the pod today, Dino,
Yep.
Beneath actually wasn't even at number 9. It was at number 10. And then before we recorded, I said, you know what? It actually is much better than Battle. So then I
And now
put it
it's
in at number
7.
9. Now it's 7, just from
That's
us talking
crazy.
about it more. Yeah.
Yeah, the more you talk about it, the higher it gets. Love that.
Yeah. But anyway, loved Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, but again, just felt a little underwhelmed because of the immensity of all the others and the stakes. This I just didn't feel as much that, but still
Mhm.
loved it. Still loved it. Love all these movies.
Mhm. That's understandable. So my number 6 is the same film, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And it was a little bit hard for me to place this one because I had my ranking already set. And so I watched this new one and was a little bit like, I think I need more time to really rank it. So I think this is going to change, but for now, this is a good place. And I have the same feelings as you in a way. So I told you already that I had a little bit problems with the pacing, but I don't mean that it felt longer than it was. I wasn't like, oh, when is this going to end? The little problem I had was they were in the vault and she pulled out like that little thing that she in the end gave the humans. And as soon as she pulled that out, I was like, this film is not gonna resolve what she's doing right now. And that was the point where I'm like, oh, this isn't gonna end as like a conclusive because the other films they sort of end where you can sort of stop there. You could,
Yeah.
but this
Yeah.
one was like I just felt that as soon as she pulled it out, I'm like, there's not gonna be enough time to resolve this. They're not gonna explain what this is. Really, they're not gonna explain like what she's trying to accomplish
Mm-hmm.
fully. And that was sort of my problem with it. And like you said, they didn't like Proximus could have been built up way more. But the thing with the film is, and I'm the last one to complain because I loved the first half of this film. And I could watch like 3, 4, I could even watch 10 hours of just Noah traveling through this world, meeting different apes, meeting different, I don't know, animals, humans, exploring. I love stuff like that. I love slow films that build up like that. Don't get me wrong, I love that. But because of the first half being like that, you don't have enough time with Proximus and like all
Yeah.
that sort of thing. And I think that's sort of where the problem a little bit comes in. Don't get me wrong, loved the first half, but I think this film either should have been longer or they should have like split it up a bit more to have more of Proximus and having him return. So that's sort of my little issue with it, but still, I love this one. It's amazing, very fun to watch, very beautiful visuals. Noah's great, May is great, and I'm excited to see where it goes. But that's just like my little issue. That was like they're not going to resolve this one. I was like a little bit frustrated, but
Mm-hmm.
it'll make for stronger setup for the next one.
100%. Um, my number 6 is a film that you had already mentioned on yours, and that is Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. I absolutely love this movie. The whole end monologue from Caesar is amazing. It's the first time Caesar takes power, like we said, and I remembered this one always being a favorite of mine. Um, like growing up, I remember like okay, of the original franchise, like this is like top 2 ish of the original franchise. And I think it's like my number 3 actually of the original
Mhm.
franchise, but it is it's an awesome movie. You really I feel like this again this and the movie that I'm gonna name next, not to spoil, really are kind of sister movies, brother films in a way. Um, and yeah, it could flop with the other. I just think the next one was a little bit more evocative for me in terms emotionally of this. Not to spoil this rise of of these apes. But
Mhm.
anyway, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes is number 6 for me. Love this movie. Love that. Love seeing that 1990s Los Angeles and like how they've replaced dogs and cats as like pets and slaves. And
Yeah.
yeah, love that movie.
Awesome. Okay, my number five. We're halfway through. So my number five is War for the Planet of the Apes. And this one is great. Like I said, this is I think where Matt Reeves really just like went bananas. Pun definitely intended. And because this one, I like that it's a full-on revenge story. I like that they kill off his wife and his son very early in the film. It sort of becomes like he just gets full with rage and revenge, and that sort of leads to his like the other apes being captured, and then it sort of turns into a prison break film, which I also
Yeah,
really like them having this plan how to escape. Once that sets into motion, like the other humans come, there's like a giant war going on that turns into like all the what's that called in English? Like that where all the snow is like coming down from the mountain.
a blizzard.
Is it a blizzard?
Oh,
Is it even a blizzard?
an
Avalanche.
avalanche.
That's the word.
Yeah, yeah,
Like the avalanche, and then all of the apes having to climb up the trees, and you have this beautiful shot of
yes,
just like him, which is a mirror shot to Rise, where in the end he's just like looking at San Francisco on
yep.
the tree, and you have this one with like all the snow and this being covered up, and this one is fantastic. CGI is great, and like I said, I love the emotionality of this revenge story. Where in the end, he sort of has to realize like I can't let my revenge fuel me. I need to stop this because this is just gonna turn into more violence and this cycle. And so he turns away from that to help his apes in the end, which
Hmm.
is just great. And yeah, I really like this one on rewatch and the
Hell
first
yeah,
time.
hell yeah. Um, so my number five actually, it's I kind of already spoiled this. Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Mhm.
Um, this one I kind of had a a flopped sort of thing with War, where I remember liking this one a lot more than War, and then this last rewatch I did, I kind of my opinion changed on War and Rise, in where I like ranked them. And Rise, I love. I feel like in a way, like I don't know what it was, but like it's because I'm not shitting on it. I do love it, but there was like a different perception that I had with it this last time around. And by me saying that, I mean like me just dropping it from a 5 star to a 4.5 star. Like that's what I
Yeah.
mean.
Mhm.
Um, where I think that it sets up everything so perfectly. I really do love the James Franco character. Will, I think was his name.
Mhm.
And I really wish he would have been like more apart. And I'm always so curious to know like what happened. What happened to him, where he went, and there is a great scene in Dawn that does call back to Will, which I do love that scene and gives me goosebumps. But I love young Caesar. I love seeing him being influenced by the humans around him and what's happening to him to build that's it. I mean it is a great origin story. It really shows everything effectively of what makes Caesar who he is, because he is tough, and Caesar is someone who is like uncompromising, but at the same time Caesar does have like sympathy and empathy for human beings and for other people, and he's just timid of those things, and this sets it up so perfectly. Kind of the good relationships he had with humans and the bad ones, and it's fucking sad as shit. I mean, this movie makes me cry every single time. I mean, it is so sad. My God.
Yeah.
Rupert Wyatt, director of The Gambler. I said earlier, the remake with Mark Wahlberg, coincidentally enough. But yeah, I really love this movie. James Franco's amazing. John Lithgow's amazing. I forgot Brian Cox was even in it. So post Succession, I was so fucking excited to see him again. You know, Draco, or Drago, or whatever the fuck his name is from what's his fucking name from Harry Potter? Tom Felton. What's his name
Draco
here?
Malfoy.
Yeah, Draco Malfoy. Yeah, great, incredible cast. But yeah,
Absolutely.
love that movie. That is fucking shit, man. But yeah, my number five is Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Awesome. So my number four is Beneath the Planet of the Apes. And like I said, this one is just so out of pocket. The ending is absolutely insane. Like it left me speechless. I did not expect them to do that. They were wild with this one because you can tell like they didn't just want to do like a sequel that is very similar. Like they were like, how can we make this even more insane? And they did. You have these weird human beings living under like the planet. This all sort of have like this
Take off their
holographic things
mask.
that you can't see. Then they're like completely like weird in the face because of the virus or whatever. They talk telepathically what's going on, and then in the end they worship a nuclear bomb, which is just like whoa, and so sort of turns like into this religious
Mm-hmm.
whatever insane where they like actually worship this thing that they detonate in the end, and it's absolutely insane. And the balls to end your film like this, especially back then, especially for the first one being so successful, like you could never see like a modern blockbuster franchise ending this film like that. They don't have the
Mm-hmm.
balls to do that, and they did have it back then. Incredible film, incredible visuals, like just the monkey statue bleeding from its eyes, and it's just wild. And I had to rank it that high just for how insane it was and how it left me after watching it for the first time. Just insane.
And I will say I want to give love as well because I don't think he's been mentioned in any of the times we've discussed Beneath today. But that movie
Mhm.
was directed by a guy named Ted Post. And Ted Post was a collaborator of Clint Eastwood's. He directed Magnum Force, the first Dirty Harry sequel, which in
Mhm.
a lot of ways I actually find myself a lot more interested in that than the original Dirty Harry. He also directed Hang 'em High. But in 1973, along with Magnum Force, he directed another movie that I want to shout out called The Baby. And The Baby is one of the most bonkers, out of pocket, hilariously absurd films I have ever seen in my life. It's about this social worker who goes and investigates this like strange family, um, which is like a mom, like two daughters, and a baby in this crib. The only issue is the baby in the crib is a grown ass like 23-year-old man. And he is a literal baby. He's like, mama. He's literally like in the fucking crib going, and um, to me, I can't not look at the baby and Magnum Force and Beneath the Planet of the Apes and not think this guy did not give a fuck about anyone or anything. So shout out to Ted Post for making
Oh
Beneath the
yeah.
Planet of the Apes and also for making the baby. And Dino, I highly recommend checking out the baby. You got to check it out. You will fucking die. It's so good.
Put it on my watch list as you were talking about it, and then you said that the baby is like a 20-year-old man, and I just had to press the watch list button even harder. I'm gonna
It's
check that out.
unbelievable. Great
And this
film.
guy sounds incredible. He really didn't give a single fuck whatsoever.
Shout
So
out Ted
shout out to
Post.
Legend.
Yeah. Also, can I say one thing as well that I was going to mention at the top of the pod and I forgot? Can I also
Mhm.
just give an RIP to Roger Corman real quick? Just found out last night that he passed away. All
Yeah.
time great director, producer, especially all time, maybe one of the great producers to ever live. Independent Maverick. I think he was 98 or 99. I mean, he lived a full ass life. And he has an
Mhm.
incredible book. I don't know if it's within arm's reach of me here now or not, but how I made a thousand or how I made 100 movies in Hollywood and never lost a dime, and fantastic read for anyone interested in producing, um, and a great filmmaker whose movies we have discussed on here, like A Bucket of Blood, which we both
Yeah.
love.
And I need to watch more of his films because you introduced me to him and I know how much he meant to you. So it was very heartbreaking seeing your story because I found out through you, and it's
Yeah,
just very sad. And RIP, man. He was a legend. I know how much of an inspiration he was to you and what you want to do. So yeah, it's a big
R.I.P.
loss.
Yeah, R.I.P. Roger Corman. Just wanted to show some love there because I just thought of it. But anyway, moving on. He would have loved the shit out of this podcast. Uh, my number, we're on number 4, right? Yeah.
Yep, you're number four.
Okay, so my number 4 and my number 3 could they kind of go back and forth, but I think I feel pretty confident here. My number 4 is going to Escape of the Planet of the Apes,
Mhm.
or Escape from the Planet of the Apes, rather. And this is the movie where we do, for the 100th time, get this iconic. Um, there's a lot of mamas there. I should have kept it to just one, but this movie is so kind of like Beneath. where it also just takes a completely separate turn into becoming not really a Planet of the Apes movie. It's really more of like this weird, strange comedy. Um, and and it's just them in 1970s like Los Angeles and doing funny shit and all of these like funny montages. But then the last 30 minutes kind of turns into something different where it becomes a more high stakes, suspenseful, sort of on the run kind of thing. And I think that's what's so cool is each genre of the original Planet of the Apes movies changes, right? You have a classic kind of big blockbuster sci-fi in the original. Beneath is like a very nihilistic, also sci-fi. I would say those first two are in comparison, but Escape is kind of like a comedy in a way.
Turns into
Conquest,
like a thriller in the end
it
as
turns
well.
it turns into like a chase film, like a
Yeah,
cat and mouse type of chase thing.
a
And
crime
then
series, crime film.
yeah, and then Conquest is in a way almost feels like an escape film, like a jailbreak kind of movie in the way that it's structured. And then Battle is its own fucking just war kind of thing. But Escape is really cool. I love the Cornelius and Zira characters, and I think they're very likable in the original, but there's something even more likable about them here, seeing them interact with people in modern day. And I really, really love this movie. And the ending is like another heartbreaking kind of ending in a way, but also just sets up the best final shot to ever preview or lead into a new film. And yeah, man, I fucking love Escape from the Planet of the Apes. One of my favorite movies, and I guess technically this is technically the intro of Caesar. He is still Milo, and he's just a baby, but technically this is the birth of Caesar.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's my number four, Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
Awesome. Now we're getting into top three territory.
Yes, sir.
And my number three is the original Planet of the Apes. It's
Okay.
so iconic, so amazing. That ending, even though I knew it was coming, it still hit me so much just because of his performance, the way he screams. Because I've seen that image 1,000 times and I knew it was coming. But the way he reacts to it, he's like, "You fools!" Just like
Yeah.
scream, just so much
Ah!
anger at humans for what they've done. Um, it's just so incredible, it's so iconic. Brought so many iconic lines like "Get your stinking monkey
Get your
paws off."
stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape.
That's so amazing, and this film just so iconic, so amazing. It started it all, and so it deserves a number three spot. I mean, there's I can't really
Not much
say
to
more.
say.
Yeah, because how iconic it is, and there's already so many words and thoughts out on this, but just incredible, and it makes sense why this became the franchise that it is with such a strong start and such an
For
incredible
sure.
film. So, yeah,
For
what's your
sure.
number three?
My number three is War for the Planet of the Apes. Matt Reeves' final film of his trilogy, in quotes. Really, I mean, the top three is where we get to like all 5 star for me. Like these are all actual full on 5 star. Pretty much did everything right, and I can't think of a single flaw whatsoever. I love this movie. Again, another sad one. I've realized now. I mean, I cry in movies a lot. I guess apparently because this happens often. But I remember sobbing when this film ended in theaters in 2017. Was it 2017? Right? Yeah.
Yep.
Um, love this movie. Again, you kind of nailed it on the head when you were mentioning it earlier. How it's, um, yeah. I mean, the war scenes are great. It's just, yeah, it's a great fucking movie, and it's a great end to what we thought was going to be the end of a trilogy. But at the end of the day, it's still a great end of an era. It ends the Caesar era. I mean, just perfectly. Really, really incredible film.
And I forgot Woody Harrelson was in it. His performance is so good. Like he
So good.
becomes
He's
that
so
character.
shaving his head, and yeah,
Yeah,
a
he's a
great
great
character.
like villain, having lost his son, or I think his
Uh,
son shoot him.
yeah, yeah.
That was
And I
like
do
very
like the
hard.
way that they incorporated like the late onset of like these symptoms that they would eventually get
Yep.
too.
Yep.
That they did, like, time was ticking for them, and
Yep.
yeah, I really I love this movie, and I liked it even more on this last rewatch that I had than I think even the first time.
Oh yeah. Great one. Okay. My number two. Do you, do you know which one's gonna be number two and which one's gonna
Well,
be
now
number one? Do you have a feeling?
yeah, I'm seeing now the two that are left.
Mhm.
Um, I have a feeling of what each one
Okay.
is going to be, but I'll let you go.
Okay. So my number two is Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah,
And this was my introduction to the franchise. I watched it for the first time like when it came out around that time,
yeah.
maybe a couple of years later. And I was still like it came out in 2011, so I was 13 years old. Um, and just this was my introduction to the franchise. I loved it so much when I first watched it. I've seen it so many times since then because it was on TV like twice a year over here in Germany. Like that was one of the things. It was just playing over and over again. And every time it was playing, I just sat down and I watched it because of how great it is. I have like a very big emotional connection to it. It's very nostalgic to me. And so this is truly one where I'm just like hollering when I rewatch it now as an adult, just hollering at the screen, just being so excited when they break out and just when he gets like that big gorilla out to beat up Rocket and just to intimidating him. And it's set in San Francisco. I love San Francisco. The
Yeah.
setting is amazing. That final battle on the Golden Gate Bridge is just so iconic. R.I.P. to that gorilla. What was his name again?
I don't know if they kept. Let me see. Hold on. I'll do the digging.
Mhm. We gotta know. We gotta give a shout out to that legend who took out the helicopter on on the Golden Gate Bridge.
Buck.
Yep. Okay, I just remembered right as you said it. And Tom Felton's character is just so you just love to hate this guy and just waiting for his demise, and he just dies in the best way possible. Dave Franco is incredible. Um, it's just such an incredible film. I love it. And like I said, started it for me, and yeah, amazing.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I'm doing just some like digging here.
Hmm.
So Buck was the name of this gorilla, I guess, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, there was an actor in the original Planet of the Apes and Conquest named Buck Cartelian, who played one of the gorillas in the original. So I think maybe that was maybe a nod to him.
Oh, that's great. I love little
Yeah,
things like that, and see, you still discover things about
yeah,
this one. So,
yeah,
yeah, such a great. I like the new angle with this Alzheimer's. I like that story with him trying with his dad. I think it's very emotional, and the way Caesar, like his rise and how he first wants to protect the dad of Dave Franco because he's like lost and gets attacked by this neighbor, and the commentary of how animals are treated and how they're like being tested on for these like these medicines and all these
hmm
different things and how they're treated in those cages and then just them escaping. You're just rooting for them. Even though I love San Francisco, just them laying waste on the city is just so much fun to watch. So
yeah.
the ending is so great. So yeah, this is my number two. Love this one.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Well, do you happen to have an idea? That's kind of what I guessed, but honestly, I thought that this was going that was gonna be your number one. In a way, I thought
Mhm.
Rise was actually gonna be your number one. So
Nope.
I have two left.
Yep.
Do you have any idea of which one might be my number one? Which one will be my number two?
I think I know which one is your number one for sure.
Okay, so my number two is 1968's the original Planet of the Apes.
Okay.
I mean, a I mean, if they're one and two are just one A, one B.
Mhm.
It's an incredibly perfect movie. Charlton Heston is fucking amazing. The way that they set up the world is incredible. I mean, Planet of the Apes for me, I saw for the first time as like a literal child, and I have vivid memories, like actual vivid memories of the original five, watching them as like a 5-year old kid. Particularly the original. So it's been in my life like for almost the majority of my entire existence on this planet of the humans that we live on. But I love this movie. There's really nothing that I can say. I mean, it's Planet of the Apes. It's the original. It's Charlton Heston. It's fucking incredible. Roddy McDowell, which we have not shown like specifically shouted out, who plays Cornelius and then goes on to play Caesar in Conquest and in Battle. Really, I mean, just an incredible actor who was so perfect and really like wholeheartedly took on his role as both Caesar and Cornelius. Um, so yeah, I love this movie, and really nothing I can say. It's perfect.
Speaks for itself,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah.
Okay, my big number one is Escape from the Planet of the Apes. This was by far my favorite one. It was absolutely wild. It was nothing. Here it is. And the thing is, I had a feeling that was coming. I was like, if this little ape says "Mama," I'm gonna lose my shit. And then it says "Mama," and I still like it. Still just completely blew my mind. I
Mm-hmm.
was literally, I jumped out of my bed and I just yelled at the TV because how excited I was. This film is absolutely incredible. I love that it's so different, and they don't explain how they traveled back in time. At no point in this film, they're just like, "Oh yeah, they just got here." The film starts with like it starts with like the rocket coming in on like the ocean and them trying to recover it, and they think it's like Charles Heston's character. They said like, "Oh, this is the same rocket ship," but no, we have
Yep.
readings that he's still in space. So they cut it open. These astronauts come out, and you're like, "Who is that?" They take off the helmet. There is apes in it. It
Amazing
was one of
reveal.
the wildest things I have seen. That shot of just like them standing on the beach with like all the military guys pointing guns at them and just apes in space suits. I just knew from that point like that was going to be amazing. This film, like you can tell, like I'm getting ready. Just I'm so excited talking about it. I love what it turns into because then it's sort of like this 70s comedy. They have like a literal makeover, the two apes, where they get like
Yeah.
new dresses and like he gets a suit, which is
It's just
so
like an hour of montages, essentially, of them in funny outfits.
it is, and it is, and then them interacting with like humans, them being invited to like a boxing match, and she's there for like a feminist reading, and she's become this feminist icon, which is so incredible. Um, and then we find out that she's pregnant. She like collapses in a museum, I think, and they're like,
Mhm.
oh, and then it turns into this courtroom drama. And I love stuff like that where you see the conflict with humans where they're like, we have to kill this baby. Like we cannot let this baby live because it's
Yeah.
gonna doom us all. And what that becomes like just humans struggling, and this becomes like a big newspaper thing, and like humans are talking about what should we do with it. It's like such a good just like social analysis that I just love so much. And then it gets even wilder because they're on the run. They have to escape. It suddenly turns
Yeah.
into like this French Connection chase scene where
Yeah.
this guy finds out they're on the boat. He goes there by himself and then he shoots the baby. You don't see the baby, but you see like the little ape
Yeah.
baby thing
Yeah.
on the boat, and he just shoots it violently, which was like, what just happened? And like I said, I expected it then when they showed the other ape, like the mama ape. I'm like, if they do this right now, and they just didn't. So tragic to see the two apes, Cornelius and her, just dying like that, and she's laying on top of him. And it's so sad. It broke me. It made me so excited and hyped me up. Even now, like a month after watching it, I don't know how long it's been, still gets me in such a like exciting mood, so hyped up. This film is just absolutely incredible, and I'm gonna watch this every year. Honestly, that's how good it is.
Hell
It's
yeah.
just so good. So that's
And
my
shout out,
clear
sh-
number one.
shout shout out Armando as well. I forgot his name, but the
He's so
circus
great. The
homie
circus guy.
Armando. He practically saved the entire future of apes. To be honest,
He doomed humans.
yeah,
But I like that.
amazing, amazing.
Yeah. So
Okay,
just absolutely wild and incredible. film that I did not expect, and I'm so glad they just went absolutely bananas with it. Again, pun definitely intended.
Yeah,
So
that's
what's your
I love
number
I
one?
love that that's your number one. Especially because
Yeah.
for years that was my number one as well. Like I love Escape. I love that you also loved it as so much. Um, my number one obviously is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Um, and also, I mean, you know me, I'm usually pretty much a stickler about things that are remade and how originals are always better and whatever other bullshit I yap on about. But this really, I do think, just like got nailed it on the head. I think in every aspect, this is just like the superior entry of Planet of the Apes, just in every imaginable way. What Matt Reeves offers that's new is unbelievable. What he looks back at and is like winking on as well is amazing. I mean, the opening sequence is fucking absurd. Just immediately just opening on that close up of Caesar's eyes, and you pull back, and he's sitting there, and they're waiting, and they go on this hunt, and it's an incredible opening. I mean, that first 10 minutes is just fucking wild. And it's just, I mean, man, it just hits on all cylinders for me. I think that this movie is just like, I mean, I would put it in my top like movies of the 21st century. Like in general, it is an incredible film. Caesar is like the most badass protagonist of any like major franchise, you know, thing, and it's again, not really much that I can say. I mean, people already know how fucking amazing this movie is. I really can't say anything else about it. I think it'll be hard to ever top this one, in my opinion. And again, for me to be better than the original 1968 Planet of the Apes, really, I feel like that's really saying the most because it takes this super original idea that the 68 perfects and it just reintroduces it and serves it up to a brand new audience in a palatable way, in an accessible way. And at no point does it ever shortchange the emotion or shortchange the story or the character building. I mean, Koba is an incredible villain, maybe the best villain that if of the entire thing. Um, and I love the way that you see Koba also in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, kind of build into who he is as well. I mean, just great structure in this new trilogy. Maybe the only new rebooted trilogy that I actually do find, I think maybe as a whole, really just I wouldn't say surpassed, but was as strong in its own thing.
And shout out to one of the best supporting characters in this whole franchise, Maurice, which is so
Maurice,
he is so great, and we didn't
love
even talk.
Maurice,
He's so nice. I love him so much. So
love Rocket as well. Rocket is another solid.
yep.
Um, support. How the fuck is this only at 3.8? By the way, on Letterbox, this should be in the fours. This should be in the fours straight up. That's fucking crazy to
I
me.
think War isn't War ranked at like 4.8
War is at 3.8 as well.
as well.
Rise is at 3.6. Kingdom 3.5. I mean, I would assume the very original 1968 has to be at 4.0. I mean, it
4.0.
has to be.
It
Is
is.
it? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
The
That's
highest one.
100% the highest one. Wow. Dawn
Yeah.
should be at a 4.0. It should be, in my opinion. But anyway,
Escape is only at 3.2, which is a crime,
that
honestly.
makes sense to me though that the general public doesn't love any of the sequels though.
It is. But
Like
it's a misunderstood masterpiece.
it
I'm just
is.
putting it out there.
All right, so should we go through our ranking real quick for the people? You want to go through yours first? I'll go through mine.
Absolutely. So my number 10 was the 2001 Planet of the Apes by Tim Burton. Then I had Conquest of the Planet of the Apes at number 9. Then Battle on number 8. Dawn 7. Kingdom at 6. War at 5. Beneath at 4. The original Planet of the Apes at 3. Rise on 2. And the clear number 1, Escape.
My number 10 was Battle for the Planet of the Apes. Number 9 was the Tim Burton 2001 Planet of the Apes. My number 8 that I swapped was Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Number 7, Beneath the Planet of the Apes. Number 6, Conquest. Number 5 was Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Number 4 was Escape. Number 3 is War for the Planet of the Apes. Number 2 is the OG. And number 1, the greatest film since Citizen Kane, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
I cannot wait to do this again with you in like 15 years, and then we have 5 more to talk
I
about.
know. I'm curious to know how things are going to change and how it's going to reorder.
So then we'll have like 14 films, and no,
If they're
14.
making 4, you said they're making 4 more, or no, you said they're making 5 more for
What
9
if making
total. Then
5 more?
so
9 in
15.
total. So we'll have 15. That
15.
would be that would be insane to rank those. So I
Hefty.
cannot wait in like 10, 15 years. I, I'm very curious to see how long between each film they'll take. If
I
they're
know.
like rushing it, if they like want to pump out a new one every 2 years, or if they're taking more time, especially if there's going to be like a bigger time jump,
Yeah.
especially with technology. Maybe they want to wait like 4 years between some films.
Yeah. I'm here for it. I don't mind as long as I stay alive for the last one. That's all. That's my only goal in life.
Honestly, yep. And then after we die, they can end it. They don't have to make
And
more
they can edit
for
it. I don't give a
the
shit.
future
Yeah.
generation. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Um,
very excited.
yeah, I'm excited. Well, this was a cool, fun episode. A fucking long as hell episode as well. We've been going ham these last two.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. Well, I don't really know what else to say. Next week, we're back on track with our regularly scheduled program for Ryan Gosling's filmography. We're talking All Good Things, the um, film about Robert Durst that inspired, or I guess not even inspired, it's the reason that the Jinx documentary exists. So excited to see that and revisit that. It's been a long time since I've seen All Good Things. I don't actually even remember enjoying it when I saw it.
Mhm.
But we'll see. We're about to exit the 2010s for Ryan Gosling's filmography and get into the 2000s, which is a very fun era of Gosling. So I'm here for it.
And it'll be the first film, except for like this new one, obviously, and the Gray no, Greyman what did come out, except for the Fall Guy. The first one I haven't seen yet. So I have not seen this Ryan Gosling film. It's the first one I have not seen the ones we talked about. So I'm
Oh yeah,
very curious to watch it, and also the documentary, which we'll also talk about.
yeah. We'll talk about that one a little bit as well. But yeah, until then, folks, we'll see you next week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.